Hello, my name is Nora Yagi. I am a mother of 3 children. I am a nurse, a registered nurse with 20 years of experience. I have experience in policy work. I have experience in leadership. I have experience in education. I have an experience in bedside nursing. I have experience in death. I have experience in life. I have experience as a patient. I have experience as a family member. I have experience as a worried family member, a family overseas, watching helplessly, feeling like you can do nothing. And I am making this video today because I didn't think that a letter could clearly convey the emotion and the desperation that so many people are feeling right now, and me requesting that you help in some way. I don't know how long this is going to take. I don't know what I'm going to say. I haven't written anything down or planned anything ahead of time. What I do know is that we have a number of students in St. Albert Pub come from Arab and Jewish backgrounds who are experiencing watching their parents at home and watching news and trying to make sense of a situation that we can all agree is impossible. Yes, we are in unprecedented times. For you, it's a little bit more unprecedented than it is for Arab and Jewish people, because we have been witnessing this for 75 years. There is no right and wrong in this situation. There is no side to take. There is human rights, and there is a lack thereof. And right now, what is happening in Gaza is a lack of human rights and a lack of human consideration. 1.1 out of the 2 million people that live in Gaza are children. So if you imagine the entire north area of Gaza being evacuated to the south, they were all children. They were all people under the age of 18. And now 2 million people live in an area that shouldn't even be made for 1 million people. And that number is decreasing by the day because Palestinians are being murdered in hospitals, in schools, standing in line for water, standing in line for bread, standing in line to feed their families, standing in circles and dancing together just to pass the time. Palestinian people are dying, and we need to do something. We don't need to talk to our kids. Let me rephrase that. People feel that we don't need to talk to our kids about this. We don't need to bring this to school because school is a safe place. And that's why I am saying that maybe we don't need to bring up the conversation as adults, but if children are bringing this to school with them, they need somebody to help them process it. I was a child during the Gulf War in the 90s. And I remember looking at my parents as they watched horrified and wondering what that meant for their family in Lebanon and Syria as Iraq invaded Kuwait. I remember watching that, and I remember feeling confused. And I remember feeling like this was not the time to ask my parents questions because I could see what I now recognize as trauma on their faces. Canada is a country of immigrants. Canada is a country of settlers. We are on stolen land. We have acknowledged that. It took us a long time to acknowledge that, and a lot of lives were lost because of it. We are in a land where we say Black Lives Matter. And again, it took us a long time to acknowledge that statement without feeling offended by it. We are in a land where trans lives matter, and LGBTQ2 plus lives matter. And so many lives have been lost there too. And so much discrimination is happening right now to that group because they're just, the pick of the day. This is not a political issue. This stopped being a political issue a very long time ago. A political issue is taxation. A political issue is roads. A political issue is where should this school go? A political issue is we need another fire station. A political issue is not should people have water, fuel, food, and safety. It is not those things. And to frame it as a political issue is to dehumanize not just Palestinian people, but to dehumanize every person on the face of the planet, because it only leads to the question, what happens when they come for us? Again, I'm not asking for us to talk to kids about adult issues, but I am asking us to provide a safe space and to develop the competency and the capacity to provide that safe space, because adults themselves have said they do not have the understanding or the capacity to know what to do in this situation. But I have a surprise for you. There are so many people that do know what to do in this situation, because they've been through it, because they've studied it, because they have lived it. And we need to turn to those people and ask them what we need to do. And we need to not silence them when they speak and say, this is what needs to be done. We are past the point of picking and choosing how comfortable we are with this situation and how comfortable we are with proceeding. We need people to understand, and if we want children to understand that they all matter, that they're all unique, that they're all special, this is where we need to start. We don't need to talk about war. We don't need to talk about atrocity. We need to talk about the fact about the love we have for each other. And we need to increase that education when things like this are happening, because kids are hearing a lot of stuff. There's sides of this that are hearing hateful stuff about Arabs right now. There are sides of this that are hearing hateful stuff about Jews right now. None of that is okay. And so when our kids come to the school, in that place, they need to be taught love. They need to be taught acceptance. They need to be taught hope, because this feels like a hopeless situation. I am giving you this perspective as a child who watched her parents. As a child who watched her parents worry endlessly, year after year, because different things were happening all the time. This doesn't just, I stay isolated. This is not an isolated incident, nor is it an isolated in geography type of thing. This spills over constantly. We need to be vulnerable with our kids. We need to tell them, yeah, we know you're scared. We know you're worried. And we also need to tell them that maybe we're scared and we're worried. Because the fact of the matter is that most of us who are under 50 have never been through a war. Most of us who are under 50 have never been through a pandemic until 3 years ago. And that we need to learn how to navigate this together. We need to learn that it's okay to make mistakes as we go along in this, but it is not okay to sit back and watch and decide later what our reaction is going to be. People are being traumatized now. Families who escape those areas and have come here, they escape trauma. They have PTSD, and there is a guarantee that they are experiencing a resurgence of those symptoms. And when you have PTSD, it can manifest in many ways: anxiety, anger, a complete shutdown, fight or flight, freeze or fawn. And you don't know what's going to happen. And we need these kids to know that all of these reactions are normal. And if we're going to break generational trauma and vicarious trauma cycles, we need to start with that. We need to start by telling kids that the big people are scared too, because the big people don't have a lot of say in what's going on. Our children live in a bubble, essentially. They are raised in their world. Mom and dad are at the top of that world. Teachers are also big people with authority in that world. That's the world they know. But all of a sudden, all these external factors come into play. Politics, world leaders, all these things. How do they make sense that all of a sudden everything is out of everybody's control? If we internally are scared and nervous and unsure, what are they feeling? We don't need to talk about the situation. We need to talk about the feelings that come with the situation. And we need to talk about them delicately. And we can't be reactive in this situation. We can't choose to wait until something happens. You don't wait until you've bought a new home to see what the home looks like. You don't wait till you've bought a home to know if the neighborhood is safe. You don't wait until you've purchased the home to know what parking looks like or what your insurance costs will be. You decide all of that before you move into your home. And so why aren't we proactively dealing with this? We're working so hard in this day and age to protect people's mental health and to prevent trauma because we know what trauma does to developing brains. And if you don't know, go do the Brain Story certification through the Alberta Family Wellness Initiative. 30 hours well spent, in my opinion. Adverse childhood events rewire the brain. They change the way we respond to things. They change how we will deal with things as we move forward in our life. And what might seem like a little thing to you is a very big thing to that little brain that is trying to make sense of all of this. You need to remember that they're smarter than we are, those kids. They're amazing. They have beautiful, beautiful minds. And so if we don't help them process this, they're going to process it on their own. Just like if we don't help them make sense of what they see on the internet, they're going to make sense of it on their own. Same with information they process. We need to be there for them. And standing back and waiting and choosing how to decide later is not an option right now. And I really, really hope that you hear that and that you understand that what we need is for these kids to be safe. The last 10 days, it has become very evident that there are certain groups within, the Caucasian population, within every population. Yeah, they want to stand up to things. They want to stand up to oppression. They want to stand up to racism. They want to stand up to bigotry. They want to stand up to all these things. But they only want to do it within their comfort zone. If we stay within our comfort zone, we maintain the status quo. If we stay silent, we side with the oppressor. We need people to speak up. I'm not asking you to put out a pro-Palestine stance. I'm not asking you to put out a pro-Israel stance. I'm asking you to put out a stance that says we care about kids, we're here, we have resources, and we want to help. There is a way to structure your message so that that is what gets across to people. Because right now, what we are hearing as Arabs is your silence. And your silence is speaking volumes. It means that we don't matter as much as the Ukrainian people do. When they were in trouble, we did bake sales and we painted flags and we talked about it. When the world was ready to talk about Indigenous rights and the stolen land, we talked about it. We still do. We flesh it out. We have our National Day of Truth and Reconciliation. But when it comes to Arabs, we're silent. And this has been calculated. This has been created by powers higher than us, and we need to break that silence. We need to say, no, it stops here. We care about everyone, and we care about everyone equally. And the way that we're going to show that is by saying we love you, and if you need help, we're here for you. And if you're scared, we understand. We might be sending our kids to school, but for some of these kids, they're so scared, there's not a lot of learning going on. Because as educators, you know that learning doesn't happen when there's fear. Learning happens when the body is relaxed. And I can guarantee you there's a lot of kids who are not relaxed right now. We might not speak directly to our kids about the war at home, but they hear us talking. They see our friends calling and us talking about it. They see their families crying. They see the heavy sighs and the tired eyes, and they feel it. They feel that energy. So please, don't ignore us. Don't wait to decide how you're going to respond to this. Don't wait to see what the outcome is, because the outcome is now, and people are affected by it. If you need help, There are hundreds of people who will line up to help you to frame your messaging. There are Jewish and Arab and Palestinian and non-Palestinian and Christian and so many people who will side with you and who will help you create these messages. Don't ignore us.